there are two questions I've been struggling to answer recently. How I'm supposed to move on when my iPhone is constantly reminding me what I've left behind, and how to improve my guitar soloing and connect them with chords. So I think I have stumbled upon a good way to fix the second question of that. And we're gonna start by connecting licks. We're gonna learn 3 licks and then combine them with 3 chords. And we're gonna start making some connections and building your lick vocabulary. Today's video is sponsored by Sweetwater, specifically the Polyend Prs Analog Compressor, stereo compressor pedal, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I think I'm getting a pretty good sound for like a direct in kinda situation going on here. So first of all, let's learn a lick, okay? We're just gonna do some minor chords and some minor pentatonic stuff. So if you know this shape, which I'm sure you do, A minor pentatonic, 5-8, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 5-8, 5-8, then you know everything that you're gonna need to know, because we're just gonna take a chord. In this case, we're gonna take A minor 7. I like playing it like this, where my middle finger is on the 5th fret of the low E string, and then my ring finger is holding down the 5th fret of the D, G, and B strings. Again, you don't even have to make it a bar chord like this. You could really just get this with like your ring finger and your pinky. Okay, so that's gonna be our chord. We're gonna use it in 3 different locations. And then now we're gonna build licks from that minor pentatonic scale. So the first one, let's make it super easy. I bet you've seen a lick something like this. Okay, we're just gonna climb up and back the scale. So I'm gonna start by sliding into the 7th fret on the D string, maybe 5 to 7, then G string, 5-7, 5 on the B string, then backwards. Okay, so it's really just okay, the simplest lick that you could possibly do from the pentatonic scale. We're just going forward and backwards. Now, the saucier you make it, one thing that's nice about that is maybe like a slide to a hammer-on, to a pull-off, to a hammer-on. Again, you can add those as your taste dictates, but now we're gonna add that and we're gonna connect it to the A minor 7 chord. So, okay, that's all we're gonna do. Now again, I'm gonna slow it down again. Root and chord, and then I'm gonna use my hand to stop the vibration, the sustain of that chord. And again, you can play it with like a pick. Stop it, okay? So we're establishing the chord. We have an A note. The rest of the chord, we're harmonizing that A note with a chord. Then we're gonna jump right into the... Okay, so if that's easy for you, we can move on right away. If not, practice it a little bit. Make little variations to maybe practice your vibrato. Again, there's a lot of different ways you can kind of get creative just using that outline of a lick, okay? Now, the reason that you even learn little phrases of music, like licks, is because you can have them as part of your vocabulary and then move them around. So in the key of A minor, there are 2 other minor chords. We've got D minor and E minor. You can choose the same shape on the 10th fret and the 12th fret. So what we can do is we can add that same lick and then now make it more of a chord progression. Okay, so first of all, it's just gonna sound more like an exercise where we have A minor, D minor, E minor, back to A. Okay, so that's like a little, it's somewhat musical. It still sounds kind of like an exercise. It's something that you can very simply and easily do at your own pace. But you're moving all over the fretboard. You're kind of learning the distances, the intervals between minor chords in the key. And, you know, you start to make that connection of like, okay, every time I see an A minor, here's something I can do. Every time I see an E minor, here's something I can do. D minor. something I can do, right? Now, that's kind of like the point. It's like, all right, your brain, your mind's eye kind of lights up. You're like, okay, what's going on in the song? A minor. And then it goes to E minor. So that's why it's really important to learn more licks, right? So we're gonna learn 2 more licks, so each one of these chords can have its own lick that we attach. But I do wanna talk about this Polyend Prs analog compressor. Now, if you've watched any of the videos on the last month or so, I've been in a new location. I've been really kind of like whittling down my setup to like just something super portable. So I'm just going direct into my Apogee Duet and then using some native instruments kind of processing. But I think it sounds great and it sounds real because I'm going through an analog presser. I think of it as more than just like a pedal. I almost think of it as like a pedal unit of something that is maybe rack mountable in like a studio because it has stereo ins and outs. So I also have the Polyend drum machine that I've been making a lot of videos with. Definitely check out the new one about making a song because I'm just a huge fan of the Polyend stuff ever since I started using the drum machine. And the compressor is just an added thing because you can take just like a regular DI guitar, kind of have a professional, just sounding input, and then it does add like a lot of vibe because it just kind of smooths stuff out, especially when you're doing kind of like chord to single note stuff. You want a compressor to really even out that sound, and I think it sounds better on the way in. So I'll have an affiliate link to this. This is a crazy deal for a stereo analog compressor. So anything you get, consider using my Sweetwater affiliate link because it's awesome. So let's do another lick. Let's do them all in A minor first and then apply them to the other chords, okay? The next lick is gonna sound like this. I'm gonna try to add like maybe like a different technique for each one. So this one is gonna be that technique where instead of like taking a note, bending it and coming back, we're gonna start with the note bent and then bring it down for a landing, okay? So I've got my ring finger on the 7th fret, but I'm really bending it up to like, you know, a step higher, but I'm not actually sounding the note until I have the string at the top of the bend, right? Okay, so I'm landing it down, bring it down, going to the 5th fret on the G string, going back down the scale, the pentatonic scale, so I'm ending on 7D, then I'm skipping a few notes, I'm skipping a string, going to my pinky, basically the 8th fret on the B string, and then ending on the 5th fret of the G string, so. Okay, so kind of like a cool little lick that's just like, it's really small, bite-sized, I would say. You can play it slow, you can play it fast, whatever, but we're gonna do the same thing, so. So now we have 2 that we can use. Lick 1, lick 2. So again, we can move this into any of the shapes in this key. So for D minor, which is the beautiful thing about the pentatonic scale, is it works over any minor chord. So we can use the exact same shapes and licks over any minor chord you ever come across, right? That's why it's really helpful in your soloing and kind of building the muscle memory of just different kind of things that you can do. The beautiful thing about this lick too, let's do it back on A minor. A minor. It ends in a spot where you can kind of get like a big vibrato practice, right? And again, just really work on milking that tone out of it. And the cool thing about having a compressor is it'll sustain and sound out, so you can really kind of like get a good way to practice your vibrato. The worst thing is like, if you're having trouble with your sustain and try and work on your vibrato, it'll like, you know, the volume will leave right away. The nice thing about a compressor is it evens it out. So you can really kind of practice. So you can really kind of have notes ring out, and I think it's just good for your ear to kind of practice that way. So now, let's go back, play the same A minor, D minor, E minor, but now let's work on switching the licks in and out. So lick 1, D, 1. A. And then maybe I skip a note, right? That's the cool thing with these licks. We don't have to do the same thing every time. We can do it there. We could choke it on a up bend. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of like get creative and just alter them in a little way. But it's good to have kind of like a guide to start with, all right? So the third lick that we're gonna do is gonna be a little hammer-on, pull-off flourish. Okay, so it sounds maybe faster than it is. It sounds kind of difficult if you've never played stuff higher up in the high E string and B string. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it again in the A minor pentatonic position. Now you can use your pinky or your ring finger, but we're gonna hammer on, pull off, and again, when you pull off, play the string off, right? So instead of just coming off, you wanna kind of flick it off a little bit. So I'm going the 5th fret to the 8th fret, back to the 5th fret, and then the 8th fret on the B string, and then I'm gonna go backwards, 8B, 5B, 7G, 5B. So we got the flourish, then backwards. And we can do that again in the other positions. I'm lining my pointer finger up with where I'm starting. So remember 5, 10, and 12. A, D, and E minor. D minor. E minor. Okay? And the cool thing about this is you can really just kind of drill these. If you want to, just be like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then back to A. But I think it's cool musically for your ear, and I think I just have more fun playing when it seems like a song. So that's why I'll kind of go A minor, D, E, A. Okay, so you see that's a good example of just like using each individual lick over a chord, and then maybe that 4th chord, you just do something where you either combine them, or maybe just kind of like alter one of them to kind of make it your own, right? That's the beautiful thing about learning licks, like I said. Just like look up some of your favorite guitar players, try to diagnose exactly what he or she is doing, and then steal something, and then make it your own, right? Like I'm sure I stole these. It's not like I made any of these up, right? Another really cool one that I like to do is that's another thing that I use all the time. Bonus 4th lick, right? So we're just gonna slide into that position, 5th fret, G, E, B, and then 5, 8, 5. It's really, I think it's very helpful to go through like a scale, like a pentatonic scale, and then skip strings and notes. I think that's probably the best way to really get more familiar with it, so it's not always just up and down the whole time, right? So A, D, E, E, A. So again, I think you kind of get the idea, but these are just some kind of cool places to start off with that I think are super, super fun to play. If you want to learn more stuff like this, I'm going to do a companion lesson on my Patreon using major chords doing this kind of thing, just to give you some idea for maybe some, you know, happier, jazzier type stuff. But again, minor pentatonic is always, I think, the place to start because it's the most accessible way to do it. So yeah, thank you to Sweetwater for sponsoring the video. I'm rocking the PRS S2 Special out. Did a video on this, which I can link you to if you guys are interested. But yeah, huge fan of the Polyend stuff. Like I said, been making a lot of original music lately with my singer Lilu. this has been a big part of the sound of it. And everything is pretty much going through the front end of that Polyend press into my Apogee Duet. And it's such a small, compact kind of setup for anybody. So thank you so much. If you guys are interested in any of this stuff, I'll have affiliate links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.